Nobody expected that. On that gray morning, marked by a dense silence and a cold rain that ran down the windows, a scream pierced the house like a blade. "Go away, Mother, go away." The scream didn't come from a stranger, nor from someone who barely knew her. It came from the one she raised with sacrifice, from the one she once held in her arms, between diapers and fevers, pain and dreams. It came from his own son. She stood in the doorway, her eyes watering and her shoulders hunched, holding a small suitcase, the only thing she had taken with her. He didn't answer. He didn't shout back. He just left, as if accepting punishment for a crime he never committed. On the wet sidewalk, his steps were slow, almost surreal. The neighborhood looked on blankly. Some commented, others pretended not to see. After all, who kicks their own mother out of the house? Who has the courage to turn their back on the one who gave their life? The son thought he was getting rid of a weight, that he was finally taking control of his own life. He thought that house was his, that gesture was strength. But I didn't know that everything there was hers. At home, the land, the car in the garage, the furniture he sat on, the roof that sheltered him since he was a child, all. But at that moment, he saw nothing but his own pride. This pride, like a silent poison, corroded his lucidity. She walked to the end of the street, the rain mixing with her tears. No one hugged her after it. Nobody cared or pretended not to care. Little did everyone know that they were witnessing the beginning of a story that would change everything. A story about ingratitude, about unspoken secrets, about the true value of a mother, and about how fate exacts at the right time every cruel word spoken without thinking. Because life sometimes takes revenge and silence, and when the truth comes out, it doesn't ask permission. She comes in, breaks down doors, and changes everything. 74 years old. Gray hair always tied back with care. A serene face, but with deep lines shaped by stories that time never erases. Calloused hands which once cradled a child in their arms, and today tremble slightly as they hold a cup of coffee. She was neither famous nor rich. She never appeared on magazine covers, nor was she honored at award ceremonies. But for an innocent heart that once depended on her for everything, she was the last 2 decades a widow since she was 59. Her husband, Antonio, died suddenly, leaving behind a modest home, high debts, and a teenage son. It was at that moment that she chose to be strong, not for you, but for him. Leandro was all she had, and she did everything for him. I sewed by hand during the early hours of the morning. I cleaned 3 houses a day. He refused new shoes to pay his school fees. He smiled even when he was weak, just so his son wouldn't notice his tiredness. Build your life. And he went. He studied, he graduated, got a good job. He married a beautiful and educated woman, and grandchildren soon arrived. Estella was thrilled with each achievement, as if they were hers. He never charged anything in return. For her, this was what love was, giving without expecting anything in return. And then came the moment that would change everything. With the arrival of his second grandchild and rising housing costs, if he, his wife, and children could live at his mother's house, she didn't think twice. I said yes before I even finished my coffee. He shared the home. He gave up his room. He backed off from everything to make room for his new family. "The important thing is to see you well," she said, with that smile that hid more than it showed. The house, which for years had been Estella's refuge, was now noisy and busy. Children's laughter, hurried footsteps, side conversations. She felt alive, at least at first. But time, time. He has a strange habit of showing what the eyes insist on not seeing. The smiles began to fade. Leandra's wife no longer smiled as much when she saw her in the morning. Small comments began to emerge. Things like, "Does your mother really need to heat milk at 5 in the morning?" She left the wet towel on the chair again. "Maybe it's time for her to live alone, right?" Estella pretended not to hear. Or maybe out of love, she chose to believe it. After all, that was her son. That was his home, or was it still? The sofa was no longer his favorite place. The TV was showing programs she didn't choose. The kitchen had rules she didn't understand. And the fourth, the room was no longer his, but she was still there. I helped with the children. I baked cakes on Sundays. I picked up toys he loved in silence, as he always did. And all this, while time prepared in the shadows the day of change. She gave up for love, the moment when everything torn out coldly. But for now, Estella smiled, even if no one else noticed. Even though that smile was fading a little more each day. Time, which once seemed to heal everything, now did the opposite. It revealed wounds. Donna Estella, the woman who was once the beating heart of the house, now felt like a picture out of place. The good morning I received before was just a hurried wave. Conversations that once included his name now seemed to forget him. And they said more than any unspoken words. Her daughter-in-law, who once called her second mother, could no longer hide her impatience. She wakes up too early. That strong smell of coffee makes me sick. Have you noticed that she's always listening to everything we say? Loose comments, almost whispered, but always loud enough to hurt. Estella, with her silent wisdom, pretended not to hear. But each word was a knife, buried slowly. She continued to make coffee early. Leandro always liked it. I prepared the food, washed the dishes, tidied up the toys scattered around the house. But I no longer had lunch together. They started saying she was meddling, who gave too much opinion, who was always in the way. And then came the worst, loneliness at home. That loneliness that is not made of silence, but of indifference, the worst of all. While the family gathered in the living room, she ate in the kitchen, alone, with the radio turned down low, just to hear a voice. While they laughed at something on television, she washed the dishes with wrinkled hands and teary eyes. There was no more room for her there, at least not a space of love, just a tolerated corner, as if it were an old piece of furniture that no one has the courage to throw away, but that no one appreciates anymore either. And then it happened. It was a cloudy afternoon, like so many others. A banal discussion, the kind where you can't even remember the reason afterwards. Maybe it was a misinterpreted comment, a glass out of place, a towel on the back of the chair. Leandro, nervous, raised his voice. The grandchildren stopped playing. The wife looked on in silence, as if she had already expected it. And then he said, "Enough, Mother. Don't you understand that this is no longer your place? Don't you realize that you're in the way, that you're suffocating, that you're bothering? Go away, Mom, please. Go away." Donna Estella's world stopped. She didn't cry at the time, He didn't even protest. He didn't ask for explanations. He didn't even try to argue. You just get it. With the same dignity that had guided her throughout her life, she went to her room and grabbed her old leather suitcase, the one she used on short trips, now so heavy with so few pieces of clothing. She put on her coat and put her scarf in her hair. He took one last look out the living room window, where no one was looking back, and he left, without shouting, without slamming the door, saying a word. Without. The neighbor next door saw her pass and hesitated. "Are you going to travel, Donna Estella?" She just smiled, her eyes filling with tears, and he continued. But there was something that no one, absolutely no one knew. Neither does Leandro. Neither does the wife. Neither do the neighbors. That house where he kicked her out, wasn't his. It never was. The deed was still in Donna Estella's name. The land, the assets, even the car he drove, her name. Leandro never cared about documents. He always trusted his mother, like someone trusts the air they breathe, until he forgot. And now, he had thrown out his own mother off, what was hers. Pause. Track changes tone, slow, low piano enters. But Estella didn't come back. He did not complain to the court, did not confront. She chose silence. But silence sometimes screams louder than 1,000 words, because when love is ignored, the truth finds a way to make itself heard. It would change everything. And what the days following Estella's silence were, for Leandro, a relief at first. The house seemed more organized, less noisy. The routine is back under control, and everything seemed to be in place. Everything. Except him, there was something off. A strange, uncomfortable emptiness. It was as if the mother's silence had been echoing off the walls, as if every corner of that house, the sofa, the kitchen, the garden, was whispering her name. She was still there, as if, but not with presence, with absence. And it was on one of those days, while looking for old documents to renew his car insurance, that Leandro entered his mother's old room. Everything was still there. The soft scent of her soap, the folded handkerchief on top of the dresser, the armchair where she sat to sew, the battery-powered radio next to the bed, and on the shelf there was a folder, simple, brown, with the name Estella Maria written on an old label. He opened it without thinking, and there it was all there. The deed to the land, the house purchase contract, the car document. Everything is notarized, dated, and stamped, all in her name. Leandro's heart raced. He felt the ground disappear. How? Why? The memories came like dry blows. The day she said, "This house is ours." The moment he asked to live there with his family. The times he walked all over her thinking he was the owner of the house. Letter, the last page of the folder, in Donna Estella's sweet and firm handwriting. "Son, what is mine would one day be yours. Because what we build with love, we leave as a legacy. But respect, this is not written at the notary's office. It is born in gestures, in the words you choose to say, and in those that choose to remain silent. The house, the car, the furniture, everything is just stuff. But affection, my son, this is the most precious gift a mother can offer. I'm not sorry for what you said, what we missed out on. If one day you miss me, I'll be where I've always been, in the silence of what was missing. With love, Mommy." Leandro remained motionless, sitting on the floor, letter in hand, eyes filled with tears. The pain was not from material loss, age of cruel perception. He had lost his mother while he was still alive, and worse, by their own choice. Tears fell not of anger, but of regret, because there is no contract that gives back time. There is no registry office that rewrite gestures that were not made. There is no inheritance that can buy back an unspoken "forgive me." Estella did not return, didn't call, didn't send a message. She just went. And she took with her everything that was invisible but essential: the presence, the care, the lap. He took with him the love that was not valued. And Leandro, he kept the house, with the car, with the documents, with everything that had no life. But without her, everything seemed empty. Time passed. Forgiveness. No
Leandro
fuss. No to contact. In the beginning, I called every day, then week by week, until Donna Estella's silence became clearer than any answer. She didn't want to listen anymore, not out of anger, but out of protection. He even went to his aunt's house, called neighbors, and searched social media. It was from an acquaintance at the fair that I learned. Donna Estella had rented a small house in a village a few kilometers away. A simple place with flowers at the entrance, a small window, an old kettle, and peace. She started again, alone, with the scars that time did not heal, but also with the dignity that he never lost. She started crocheting again. I made cakes for the neighbors. I went to church on Sundays, and even though she was hurt, she still found a way to smile at life. But that smile, it wasn't the same anymore, because certain wounds don't just hurt the body. They hurt the soul. They are invisible cuts, deep, that bleed slowly. Got everything he asked for. Leandro, in turn, the car, the garage key, the office closet, the TV remote control. But what he didn't expect was what would be missing: the smell of coffee in the morning, the curtains washed with the scent of lavender, the voice singing softly in the kitchen, the sound of the sewing needle going back and forth like a metronome of love. The house, once lively, became cold, empty. The silence now was uncomfortable, almost painful. He began to live in the midst of his She sat at the table and remembered the day she ate alone. She listened to the TV and remembered the day she was called a nuisance. He looked at her bedroom door and felt the weight of the absence he himself had caused. Yes, he kept the house, but he lost his home. And there is a brutal difference between the two things, because a home is made of presences, of gestures. Be careful, of love, and above all, respect. And respect. This, once broken, you can't buy it, cannot be rebuilt with bricks, and you don't even rent it with remorse. There are words that, once spoken, become stones. Stones that cannot be removed without leaving cracks. And there are gestures that time does not erase, because time can heal, but you can also charge. Leandro discovered the bitter way that regret doesn't bring anyone back, and the lack of a mother is not filled with silence, nor with possessions. She is still alive, yes, but he lives far from him, out of your voice. Away perhaps from the most painful, it's just that she now lives too far from his heart. She didn't ask for much. He did not demand titles or public recognition. He didn't demand inheritance nor applause. I didn't expect expensive gifts or nice words. Donna Estella wanted only one thing: respect. I wanted to be seen, heard, welcomed not as a burden, but as part of the home she herself had built with so much effort. But what he received in exchange for years of renunciation was oblivion, exclusion within one's own home, rejection disguised as need, and finally the door closing behind us with no way back. Leandro believed he was in control. He thought he owned everything. He confused affection with possession, presence with weight. But life, silent and fair, took care of teaching. And now he carries a void that no document can fill, no key can open, and no words can erase it, because time doesn't come back, and because love, when expelled, maybe you sometimes can't find a way back. Maybe you are one. Perhaps you have already felt the bitter taste of being forgotten by the one you loved most. Or maybe you've already acted like Leandro, even without understanding. Whatever your story, this narrative leaves us with a truth that is impossible to ignore. What is rightfully yours can be given away, but what is yours for love needs to be earned.